There's been constant talk about housing affordability in this country, and for younger Canadians, data suggests they're continuing to struggle to get into the market. Scotiabank recently had a survey on that. There have even been reports of more siblings teaming up to buy a new home together. Alex Kjorven is Chief Product Officer at Ourboro, which efforts to help first-time homebuyers with their down payments, and he joins us now. Alex, thanks very much for being with us. When you survey the landscape right now, especially among young Canadians who are thinking about home ownership, what are you hearing?
Yes, it's definitely a topic we hear a lot. There's a whole generation of folks that are becoming disenfranchised with ever opening, being able to own a home. And that's because more and more people are relying on the bank of mom and dad to be able to break in the market. Prices of housing is rising much faster than income. And so you need a plethora of solutions to be able to meet the different needs of home buyers today.
So in your business, we should probably explain how it works, but essentially you've been working with a lot of first-time home buyers, specifically on the subject of down payment. Before we talk about the specifics of the business, what was it about seeing this issue through the lens of the down payment that you guys were trying to solve?
Yeah, definitely. So there is a growing gap between those who are able to access generational wealth and break into the market versus those who simply do not. And so we're seeing people left behind from one of the most stable forms of generational wealth creation, which is residential real estate. And so Ourboro was essentially created to bridge this gap. So we are one of Canada's first and only what's called a shared equity investment providers. And what that means is Ourboro contributes towards a down payment. So we'll provide you a financial contribution at the time that you purchase your home. And in exchange, we're investing in that home. We are going to get a share of that future appreciation when that home sells. So what that means is the buyers and the buyers in Ourboro are investing in the home together, and we both win if that property sells for more than we bought it for. And, Ourboro essentially exists to be able to tackle this growing gap to home ownership, which has become increasingly out of reach for those with solid incomes and very good credit.
And just to add a little bit of context, I referenced there's sort of been examples shared of like even siblings that are teaming up as co-owners of a home. So the idea of a sort of a team approach to home ownership, whether it's your firm teaming up with a potential home buyer or literally family members, that's something that we are seeing to a certain extent across the country.
Definitely. And that's a great example because I think people are finding all sorts of creative solutions to be able to get into the housing market. You see co-ownership where family or friends are purchasing a property together and living on that property together, or siblings, or borrowing money from family or friends. And then you have shared equity, which is just another option in this spectrum of tools and choices. And I think in this time of, rapidly rising home prices and a lot of contention in the market, that's what home buyers need. It's what Canadians need, is just simply more options to suit what they're looking for and their lifestyle choices. Ourboro is a bit different than more the traditional co-ownership where you have multiple parties sharing a property, because we'll never set foot on a property. We are essentially a silent, patient investor on the side. The home buyers with Ourboro are living in the home and enjoying it 100% of the time. That equity investment that we provide is not a loan in any way. So there's no interest to our down payment contribution, no monthly payments. The home buyers they get to enjoy the property and they take care of it.
And just to give our audience sort of some context on how that value proposal is sitting with Canadians, like how many applications have you been receiving over the last few years?
Like I said, the feedback has been very validating in the sense that the market is craving options. So Ourboro has been publicly available as a solution since about 2022. And since then, we've received over 3,000 applications from qualified buyers. And so demand continues to sort of outpace supply for our product and availability. But we've co-bought close to 240 homes to date. And that represents about $190 million worth of real estate across the GTA. And that, like I said, that there's constantly folks in our pipeline who are waiting to be able to work with us and looking to be able to co-own a home using this new shared equity option.
And then as for like the ultimate pricing for homes, whether it's solving the issue through more supply or some other measures, what do you think will work most effectively to make home ownership something that is fair for more people? And depending on whether that works or not, do you anticipate that there'll be a lot more investment and partnership that makes up the residential housing market in this country?
Yeah, I mean, lots to unpack there in that question. I think I love that you acknowledge that it's accessibility for home ownership rather than, conflating that with affordable housing in general. I think Ourboro, we're here to tackle housing affordability. How do we make home ownership accessible for that middle class? Like people, like I mentioned, with good jobs, with good credit, we call them the mortgage eligible, but down payment poor. And so models like share equity, that's where we come in. We're not building supply. We're very aware of that. There needs to be, like I mentioned, a spectrum of solutions to solve the housing challenges of our time. And we're not on the supply end. We're tackling the demand side of capital. So instead of building supply, we're building access to home ownership. And we're essentially leveling the playing field for a generation of home buyers that are trying to play in a market that has become quite structurally unfair. They're competing against people who have, as I mentioned, generational wealth, families who have owned real estate in their families for, generations and are able to tap into that equity and leverage the equity there in their homes to help future generations buy. So we have, newcomers, we have many first-time home buyers who are just unable to compete in that market because they don't have the, hundreds of that, or like the six-figure down payment cash amount needed to purchase a home in the GTA nowadays.